Please let me know when you have started so I can proceed.
I have started.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I can see Ella, break Mama here, Pepin, GP1107, and Rahin are all welcome. This is our web foundation too. Solely on practice, and I believe you all have your systems turned up. All right, just make sure you are joining this or you are together with your system in this workshop. Or we'll be doing solely on practicals and practice. All right, quickly I will share my slide. So this is a front-end coding workshop, just practical of what we did in our previous workshop. And our agenda for today, we'll be discussing about tools, extension, and then also installing them. That is tools and extension installation. Then that's a mistake. Semantic and HTML practice. They're coding some HTML elements on VS Code, which will be our IDE we'll be using for this. Then question and answer section. Alright, so previous workshop I introduced myself for those that are joining us for the first time. I'm co-doctor and I'm taking you the front end workshop in DevSoc. Alright, so quickly without wasting much time, we'll dive into the tools and extension installation. So for this workshop, for this front end workshop, or the basic workshop for now, which we dwell on HTML, introduction to HTML, these are the few tools and extension we'll be needing. First is the VS Code, Visual Studio Code. This is a text code editor, where we can write our codes. Alright, then we need the Chrome, which is the browser where we can view our web, our program, because the front end solely runs on the browser. So you can run it on any of the browser, be it Chrome, be it Firefox, be it Opera, meaning UC browser, anyone suitable for you, but I recommend Chrome. I recommend Chrome.
I don't know the.
Then these tools are extensions, the live server and the Bridge. They are all extensions. So we'll be getting that under the VS Code. All right. So quickly, for those that are new in coding, so you can get these two on any browser to download it. So this VS Code, all we need to do is search for VS Code, and you can see a very short on the Google. And the first, you see this, the first official website, code.visualstudio.com. Click on it. All right. Then once it loads, hope my internet is fast. So wait for it to load. All right. So you can see for all download for the Windows, Dev, RPM, Mac, depending on what you are using to run. So this is for Ubuntu, right? For those that are running on the Ubuntu operating system, and this for Mac OS. And if your PC is on Windows, be it Windows 10, 11, 8, so click on this download. So once you click on it will download. So definitely, once download, it can come as a zip file, right? So let me download without wasting much time. So you can see download here, and it should download. But I will start. I have the VS Code installed already. Alright, and verify. So I can just verify, download and verify file, and it will start downloading. Alright, so I think this is downloading is file without being zipped. Right, so after downloading, just double click on it and you complete the installation. All right, so if you have it done, and if you don't have yours, please do that now. So I have VS Code installed. So if you have yours installed, quickly open up the VS Code. All right, you should see a page like this. You should see a page like this, right, saying welcome and whatever documentation they have on it. All right, so first thing we'll be doing today before we start, okay, I made mention of extension. So how do we download the extension? So we download this extension on this VS Code application. So come to this down place, you can see this kind of buzz being joined together and having another abstract here. Then it's written, there is a toolbar around here. You can see it, extension. All right, tooltip, right, extension. So or use the short form Ctrl+Shift+S. So click on it. We see all these extensions, right? These are the extension already installed. So first we are downloading is the live server. We can just click on live server. Live server. You can see that. Click on it and you install. So I have mine already installed, right? So you just click on install for the live server. And next one is the prettier. So I'll explain what these two extensions are doing and they're important, right? So you can see the prettier code formatter. Click on it and get it installed. I have mine installed also. So get these two installed, the live server and the tier. All right, so if you have done that, so we quickly do something. So let me cancel this. Okay, let me allow you to download. I can reference on it. So quickly go back to your desktop or anywhere you are comfortable of creating a file. First thing I recommend every student to do, learn how to organize your files, right? It's very, very, very important. Learn how to organize your file. So first thing we do, I will create a folder for this workshop, right? So I can call this DevSoc front-end workshop. All right, so this is the folder I've created. Sorry, I might be a bit slow in typing, but pardon me, I am not in a conducive place. Our class will still continue. I can close this extension. All right, so open up the file. So there are many ways we can open up a file or a folder on our VS Code application. First, for this course, I'll be teaching you two methods. First, the drag and drop and the manual file opening. All right, so I'll first of all show you the file opening, then we'll try the drag and drop. So to do that, click on this menu you have seen, file, locate open folder, click on it, then look for where you created the folder. Mine was on the desktop. You can see DevSoc front-end workshop, and click on it and select folder. Automatically we open, giving us a new interface, right, with the name of the folder, which is still empty. That is empty. The other option is the drag and drop, which you can open up the file and drag it to your VS Code where you want to open. All right, still the same thing. It will still do the same thing. All right, so let's quickly start. So I will go back to our slide. Right. Okay, this. All right, I don't download it, so I can close this. So we will solely depend on practical on this. So let me make recap on what we did last time. Now last time I introduced you to a web on websites an HTML element is structures, right? So that was the summary of what we did in our previous workshop, discussing about the thematic element and the attribute and elements of HTML, which we discuss about the first, it must have the doc type, the HTML tag, the head under the HTML, and the body. And I went as far as explaining what the head section is doing. That was the page information, and the body is where we have the visible content. I hope we all remember. So moving forward from that, we'll be taking a practical task. So this is our first task here. We have a basic HTML structure, and we are to create a simple HTML page that has a title. So there will be a title, name it my first web page. Then we'll display a main heading written welcome to my website, and display a paragraph introducing yourself. So quickly we'll do that in our VS Code as live practice. So join me if you have your PC. Or maybe let me increase my screen a little bit. Okay, I think it's better. So how do I create a file? So this is a folder. So I need to create a file under this folder to continue. How do I do that? First, I can use any of these options. This is new file, or I can come here and right click, say new file. So let me click on this button for quick, so I can click this and say tax1. Let's use the word tax1.html. So this is the file extension, right? .html. So this indicates that I am creating an HTML file. Once you see .html, you can know that this is an HTML file, just like the way you see .mp3, .mp4, right? So they are all file extensions that identify what kind of file you are operating. So see mp4, you should know that is a video, that is a video file, and you see mp3, you know, yes, this is a music file. You see jpg, you know, this is an image file, and so on and so forth. Same thing happens in this file we are creating. So scene.html shows that this is an HTML file, and I said this HTML stands for hypertext markup language. It's a markup language. So let's quickly take our first task. Close this. Thank you. So first thing I will do is to create my HTML structure. Once I have this, I must give it a structure, and those structure is, first thing I said is to have the document type, all right, the HTML, the head, and our body. So to do that, I will put my tag and have exclamation mark, say doc type in capital letter. So you can see my VS Code is giving me suggestion. All right, so we can have doc type HTML. So after this indicate that yes, we are running a particular version of the HTML, right, which is HTML5. The next thing is to open up the HTML element or HTML tag, right? Like I said something about indexing. So this is HTML5. Then this HTML tag, rather, I have two sections, the head section and the body section. So I will create the head section, which is opening and closing tag. Then I will create the body. All right, so under this head is where we put every information I want to achieve. All right, any information about my page, right? Any information about my page will be, this is the page information will be placed on the head. Then on this body will be the visible content which my user or whatever person visiting my website can see. All right, and all these are embedded under this parent tag called HTML. Right? The first thing we are asked to do, let me open up our tags, is to add a title, right? And I showed you how we do a title. Our title is an information about our page being placed on our head section. So on this head, I can index and have the title tag, and in between this, I can write I first web site, or let's just say web page. So this is a single page. All right, my web page. All right, this is seen under the head. Then let's proceed. Next one says display a main heading. Welcome to my website. So definitely we have done about headings. I would say HTML headings ranges from H1 to H2. So you can see, since this is a main heading, definitely we are expecting to use the H1, which is the highest. All right, and then we display a paragraph introducing ourselves. All right, so first thing under the body, since this is a visible content, I will have the H1, right? So VS Code automatically closes it for me. That's the beauty of using VS Code. All right, so I can have, let me see the text. Welcome to my website. So I can have a heading and say, welcome to my website. Then next, I'm asked to create a paragraph. To create a paragraph, we use the P tag or the P element and say, I can say, I am a doctor. Let's make it say, hello, my name is co-doctor, and I am teaching HTML basics. All right. So yes, I have written this simple program. Very simple. This is how I can achieve our task one. Very easy. Consider HTML is very user friendly. All right. So next, let's proceed to discuss the extensions we installed on this plate. So what's the function of the lifesaver? So I will show you a manual way we usually run our program. So you ask, how do I run this program? Know that this HTML runs on the browser. That means everything you are running, be it a local, be it online, must run on the browser. So first thing, to run it manually, I will have to copy a path on this smile. Just copy the path on the file, copy path, and come to any browser. Open up a tab and paste it. All right, so you can see that. Welcome to my website. My name is this, and you can see the title I created up here called my first website. Just the same way you can see this title, DevSoc Web Foundation. You can see this called workshop, and these are how they created their titles. I believe this is clear. But the disadvantage of this over Lifesaver. So this Lifesaver also do the same thing, like run our code on the browser for us. But the disadvantage of this, if for instance I make a change removing basic X, I come back to my web page, it's still remaining X. That means I have to manually refresh this browser for it to change, right? So you can see, but once I use the Lifesaver, or whenever I do a change or I make a change, it updates it automatically. So to use the Lifesaver, you will see below this footer, go live, right? So you see click to run Lifesaver, right? So click on it and it will run on a particular port. So starting, so once it runs, you can see it's run on a port 5500. You can see it here. All right, so let me do something so we can see the difference between the, so I can bring up this one that is running on a port. All right, I will keep it somewhere here. Let's keep it somewhere like this, for instance, and I will resize my VS Code. So you can see that whenever I do any changes, so I can say, let me collapse this. So if I add X, you can see automatically it adds the X without me refreshing my web, right? So that is the beauty of using a Lifesaver, right? So your question might be, oh, why do I download the printer? What's the function of the printer? So this printer help us to organize our code. Let's assume that my code is just like the very scattered, not indexed, right? I didn't arrange it just this way, and just maybe this one go here, this one go somewhere here. Just imagine how scattered this code is. You won't get confused to even understand. Let's say I put this way. But the beauty of Prettier, it helps us rearrange this code within seconds. So how do I do that? I can highlight the whole of this, right click, and you can see format document, right? Once I click on it, it helps me rearrange my code and index it properly. That is the work of the prettier. I hope that is well understood. All right, so let's proceed to follow up the second task that we have. So I believe this basic structure is very easy. Then this is the solution, the same thing. So you get this slide in our web once after this class, and I believe I think it should be live already. So maybe after this you can get the solution. Then if you didn't follow up, you can practice on your own. Turn up and try running this and run your code and make sure that you're having the same output. All right, so task 2, we're discussing on text formatting and lists. All right, so you say use headings, bold text, italics, ordered and unordered lists. Remember, we have done that in our previous class, but theory aspect, so we'll do practical aspect of it. So we are creating a page that contains first a heading, maybe the heading called my hobbies. Then we create unordered list of 3 hobbies. All right, then we'll give another heading and call it my daily routine. Then we'll create an ordered list of 3 daily routines. Then make one hobby bold and one activity italic. All right, so this is very, very easy. So let's go back to our VS Code. I believe you can see my screen this way, even though it's not that wide. I believe you can still see. Let me increase the bold. All right, I think this is better. And now we enlarge a little bit. I want to be seeing my browser. Okay, well, let's make it full. I can always reference. All right, so to continue, this is task 1. I will leave this task and create another task. So I will say new task 1, task 2 .html. All right, so manually I was in our previous task 1, I was to use manually write all these by myself, right? I wrote everything, and it becomes stressful. Maybe every time I'm creating a file I have to do that manually. But this is the beauty of using a text editor like VS Code. Those things have been shortened, that you have a short or short code you can use and you get the actual result. So you can use the exclamation mark, single exclamation mark, right? You can see that it's even showing me the abbreviation of what I'm doing. So if I click enter, it creates this structure, right? Introduce the doc type, the HTML, divide it into the head and the body. All right, so I can highlight this and format my code. Right, once I format my code, you can see the head section and you can see the body section. All right, so let's rename the title of this. So let's rename it to what we are doing. So text formatting and lists. So I can quickly just select this and copy it. So fast enough, and I'll come here and change this title and paste it. Text formatting and lists. Beautiful. I believe you are all following. All right, so the first thing we're asked to do, create a heading called my hobbies. All right, so we can use the main heading, page 1. So VS Code helps us complete. Once you have your page 1, click, you can see it's all an abbreviation showing that it opens the opening tag and the closing tag. Click on it and it will create the pairs tag of this element, right? The page 1. So in between this, I can have my text called my hobbies. Right, so I can write my hobbies. All right, so next one, we're asked to create unordered list, right? So I said in our previous workshop that unordered list is where the order doesn't matter, that you just want to have the list without putting in an order form, right? So basically by default it comes with a bullet, in a bullet form. All right, so I created an ordered list and I taught you how to do that in our previous class workshop. All right, so first thing we do in creating an ordered list, I gave you a very clue how these names are being generated. So you see an ordered list, it formed from the U and from the L, right? The first letters of each of those words joined together. So I can have my UL, and it creates it like this. Then this creates an ordered list. So how do I add the list? It says I should an order list of 3 hobbies, right? So hobby, 3 hobbies. Good. So to do that, to add list on this on order list, I will have my li called list. All right. It creates this, and I can say my first hobby maybe coding, for instance. There's sorry, can have coding. Good. I can have I can just duplicate this to 3. All right. I can change this. I can say maybe uh traveling. This is not basically my hobbies though. I'm just facing in everything. Maybe I can have reading, right? Good. So we have created 3 lists, 3 unordered lists. All right. So we have created that. So I can close this port. Let me close it, and I can go live again for this particular page. So you can see by default it creates this with the bullets on ordered lists, on ordered lists, on ordered lists. All right, let me open up. So let's proceed without wasting much time. Close this, close this. So the next one says create another header. We have to create another heading, my daily routine. So I can just copy my daily routine, and I can use a sub menu or a sub heading like the H2, and I will have my daily routine. Right, so I'm using all these HTML elements so you can see how we use it. And the next says an order list of 3. So this says order, that means the order matters of 3 daily routines. All right, so how do we go about that? The same on ordered O and L. I can enter, it creates the opening and the closing elements. All right, so I can now add my list, my daily routine. I believe we all can hear me. Hold on, let me confirm because I'm not seeing the workshop. All right, thank you. Stay there. Daily routine. So I can have one, can say maybe wake up. I can create another li, and I will say maybe study HTML. I can create another one, and I can say go to bed. So I've actually completed my 24 hours. How funny it is though. For this, I've created three lists, 3 ordered lists, right? So immediately I don't need to refresh my browser. Once I open this browser, I open this, automatically it refreshes on its own. So you can see that this size is a sub menu different from this size, and it's good. So this is ordered 1, 2, 3. Then let's proceed. We still have some other tasks under that. It said we should make 1 hobby bold and 1 activities italic. Right. So in text formatting we did in our previous class, I told that we have the several ways of making a text bold or strong or important. Another one italic or emphasized. All right, so either way you want to use, we'll use the modern way, which is the strong. I think using the bold and the I is gradually depreciated or depreciating. We don't use it anymore. All right, so in this first, let's choose this coding and make this guy strong or bold or important. So to do that, I will have to add another element in between this guy to close this man. All right, because this is the main list. So any other thing I'm adding will be inside. So I can say strong, which is this element. So in between this element where I have my content, so I can just move this coding, cut it off, and bring it in between this. And let's run, see what we have on our code. You can see coding is bold, different from traveling and the rest. So let's make one of our code here emphasized or italic. All right, the same way I can use the em, which means emphasized, or the I, any of them you want to use. So I can cut this and place it in between this. If I don't need to refresh, by default it will change. We can all see that. I believe that is clear. All right, so let's proceed. If that's clear, let's proceed. So we have done with task 2 and the solution is there. All right, so you can also run this solution on your system. Right, so I did these snippets and others, so you can quickly go about them, go through it and run it again. So task 3 is list and image. List and image. Links and image. Links and image. So I said we discuss about the links, whatever you click to take you to another page or a reference, and the image which you have your normal image. So quickly I will open up my VS Code and have another one called tax3.html. So I can use my short form of abbreviation and open up this, and I can copy this header to quicken up the process, and I will change this document to this links and image. All right, so all visible items or content must be placed in the body, and this remains the information. So I can always Control A to highlight, or right click and you see format, or Shift Alternative F. So let me try this shortcut, Shift Alternative F. All right. So Shift Alternative F automatically format it using Prettier. All right, that's been set by default. So you can see that. Okay, so let's go ahead with the task. So first they say add a link to Google, right? We must add a link to Google. So if you notice this, you will see that there is a protocol, HTTPS. So this hypertext transfer protocol, this X means secured. All right, before now we don't use secure, we have just the normal one, HTTP. So whenever you use it, the site is OYO on your own. All right, so anybody can mess with it, but there is a security pattern of this protocol, right? The X, HTTPX. All right, so let's quickly do that. Create a link that we can link. And okay, before that, number 2 say make it open in a new tab. All right, so they are different. That I click on a link, it goes to the next tab, or if I click on it, it opens on the self or the parent tab. They are two different things. So let's look at it before the image. To do that, I say we use the anchor tag, and the anchor tag, which is the first letter A, is used. So I can use A, and you can see the link, or let's just write it by default A. Let me create it A, and I said this. Okay, let's do something. Let me explain what I showed you in our previous class. So I can say click to Google, right? For instance, so I will close this port again. So let me use this method of copying the path, so I don't open new pages. So I can refresh this guy here. Yes, and paste this page. All right. All right, you can see click to Google. You can see my cursor, right? You can see it, how it is. This is a text cursor, right? Looking at this, the pointer, you can see it. So this serves like a normal text, because why? There is no attribute or a reference. So in our previous class, we discussed about the attribute for this A or the anchor tag, which is the href, right? So immediately I add a href. Let's see how this page will behave. You can see this changes, shows that it's clickable, right? But before now, it looks just like a simple text. So this shows, yes, it can be clicked because it has a reference. All right. So you see we're adding Google. There are some common errors we normally do. Maybe trying to do Google, you just have to say maybe google.com. This will give you error because this is a protected file, right? Give you error. Will not access this. Why? Because this is a protected file, so you must include its protocol, right? So you use the protocol https / and refresh. Click on this, and this will take me to Google, right? But this second assignment say let's not open. You can see that this is opening on the self. It doesn't create a separate page. It doesn't go to the new page. It still opens on the self or the parent tab. But the assignment there or the task there said let's make it to open on a new tab. That means let's go to the new tab. How do I do that? I have to add another attribute called target. All right, so I can have the target. You can see the options. We have blank, parent, self, top. So to make it open on a new tab, just click on this blank, right? Select this blank underscore blank, and if I refresh again, run this, it opens on a new tab without closing this. All right, this is how we achieve this. I believe that makes sense. All right, so let me close this Google and leave this here. Okay, leave this here. All right, so the next one here that we'll be discussing says image. Let's add image. Add an image. So we say, how do we add an image? We use the img tag. All right, so before then, let me look for image in my page. I don't know if I have image on my PC. Okay, or let me teach you various ways we can add images. So we can add by its parts. So I can just have a flower, a rose flower. I don't know if this can open up this. Let me see. So this is not secured. All right, so I can download this, for instance. I don't know how this. Let me save it on my desktop. So this is downloading as web, not image. Okay, it will still run. Let me just let me do that. I can say flower. I can use my snipe. Just save it at once. Sniping too. Now save this. So I can save it also to this and say FL. Right, FL. All right, so let's go back to our code. To add image, so below this, I can click on img and automatically creates this is a self-closing element. Hope you don't forget that. All right, automatically creates the attribute, the src attribute, and the auth attribute, which is for alternative. So let's go back to what we have in our assignment or in our task. It says add an image with auth text and the width of 300. So they give us a prescription of what to do. Width of 300 and the auth text. So let's go back. So this auth text is a description of whatever image you are adding. So we have these two images, same thing. So how do I add a file or a path? Simply use, since they are in the same root, right? They are in the standard way of writing using a dot and forward slash. It will bring up all this. But since they are in the same root, you may not basically need this. And I can say FL and just write the path name incomplete. So don't write this as small letter, since this guy is capital letter. Don't write this small letter. Write it exactly the way the path is. All right. So let's see what we have in our image. So you can see this is a flower. All right, so we need an alternative text called, let's say, flower image. Let's flower image. So I told you when this description shows, especially when there is an error in this. So let's say for instance I have JP, there's no file as JP, and I try refreshing. You can see alternative text will come up flower image. So I can have the G back. And we say let's have a width of 300. So this is another attribute called width. The width, a normal width, height to resize our image. So I can say 300 and see what happens to our width. So things, let's increase to see if there's an effect. So there is an effect. So you can see. So by default, I think the image is already 300. So that's why I didn't see much effect. So can you reduce to 20 or 200? Let's see. So you can see, and you can reduce more, maybe to 100, and so this. So let's leave it to what our tag says, 300. And I can come back, Control R to refresh. All right. So that. So we have seen how we can add a link and import tag. And before I move forward, note that this does not add only external. You can still link to this part. Let me duplicate this and show you something. So I can duplicate this and click, and I can say click to, let's go back to task 2. All right. So instead of using this protocol, since this is my own local file, I don't need any protocol, right? I can just use, and they are the same root folder on the same directory. I can just type task2.html, all right? And I can open up this. Let's see this, refresh, and say click to task 2. Automatically, it will take me to my text formatting, which is, so I believe that is clear. All right, so let's go back to the next thing we have here. So solution is here, so you can always leverage on this slide and type coding yours. All right, so task 4, it gets more interesting as we proceed. Task 4, it gets more interesting as we proceed. So here we are creating a semantic layout. All right, so we create a web page layout using the header, the nav, the main, the section, article, and the footer. And this is the structure we have on this, on our structure. We say 1, header with site name. The website will give it a name using the header. And we have a nav, which is a nav bar, with 3 links. And we have the main with 1 section. And section contains 1 article. So a main, under this main, there will be a section inside, 1 section. Then under this section, we now have the article. So you can see that this shows you like a tree, a nested main, section inside, then the same article, then the footer. So quickly do that as we proceed. I'll come back here and have my tag 4.html. So I can have this dot form. I can copy it, creating a semantic layout. Creating a semantic layout. I can paste this there, creating a semantic layout. All right. So the first thing we have to do is to get a header with the site name. With the site name. All right. So let's say to do that, use the header, which I showed in our semantic element header. And inside this, I cannot have my head one, just like a group, like to organize our code to make it more readable. All right. I can say DevSoc, front, and workshop. right? So that's for the header. We are done with that. So if there's other headers, they can be grouped inside this. So I can have multiple headers inside this header element. All right. So the next one says, let's do a nav with 3 links. Right? A nav with 3 links. So your nav bars are always where your links at the top or at the side are located. So I can create a nav. Right? Inside this, I can then have the anchor tag. Right? I can say home. I can say home. I can say home. I can duplicate this, say about, and I can say contact. All right, so I must have the edge to indicate that this is a link as a reference. So since I don't have, I can just use hash as a dummy text for it. Say hash, so means don't go to anywhere. You just like refresh the page and come back to default. All right. So this does this, yeah. So we have the nav back with 3 links. So this is just like a group. You can see this is another section or a header, another part, header part, a nav part where all the links are grouped. So if I have 10,000, which is not actually possible, then if I have 10 links, they should be grouped under this nav. Right? All your links should be grouped under the nav so that anybody reading your code should be able to understand very easy. So next one we need a main, right? For main, to create a main, and under the main we need a section. So this section is like dividing, where we can have section this, section that, right? So many sections. But in this task we just need only one section, and under this section we have the article, right? We can now start adding the articles. So I can have a p paragraph, or let's have a subheading first. Now we say my first project. Okay, then I can have a p paragraph to add other content. I say this is my first project. Okay, this is my first project. And lastly, after the main, so that means if I need another section, I can just leave this section and create another section if there is a need for another section, right? You can see this is how we divide those sections. So this is using the semantic elements to properly arrange your code to make it more readable. So after this, we need the footer. So the footer is those base, just like what you are seeing here, right? So we can just use the footer element, and under this footer element, I just use the p paragraph. So what they ask us to write, so let's see what we are. I think there's something they ask us to write in our footer. So I'll scroll down to say footer with copyright. So you have seen this thing many times in your web or even your books, copyright, so that nobody will be able to take up whatever you
if
have
you're under 1,000
done.
elo,
So
you
originality
have
of
to
your
know the
content,
Blackburn Shilling
right?
Gambit.
The
I
protection
won many games with this
measure,
when I
right?
first started.
Let's proceed to
Built
do
up my
that
elo quite
in
nicely. And let's
HTML.
pump up your game.
You
The
use
Blackburn
the
Shilling Gambit starts
ampersand,
with the Italian game.
right? This is
E4,
ampersand.
E5. Burly Man brings out Skinny Donkey and you bring out your
copy. So if you
Warhorse.
use
He
ampersand,
brings
this is
out his
like
puny
adding
bishop. He's
a
trying to set up
column
the fried
to
liver
add
attack. And you already know
special
this because you are
symbols,
Terminator.
right? You
He's
can
a
see the
girly man.
comma.
Here,
But what we
if
are
you're
looking
not
for
going to
is
develop
copy,
your bishop,
symbol,
or bring out your
right?
second
This is how we
Warhorse.
add
You
symbols.
want to
Any
jump your
symbol you want to
Warhorse
use,
to
just use the
D4.
ampersand and all the symbols
Burly
will
Man
fall
can
out.
take your Warhorse and you can take back.
All right.
Or if
Then
he's
we
a
cannot
greedy
say
little girly man, he sees this pawn and he is
26
so excited. This happens
my
a lot in the lower
web,
level elos.
for instance.
Burly man
So let's
takes the
run this
pawn,
guy.
and from here you bring out your beautiful queen.
So I can
You
use
are
the light.
threatening the
Let's go
skinny
live.
donkey, and you are threatening the G2 pawn.
And it will run on
What
bus.
will
So you
Burly
can
Man
see
do?
it.
He doesn't
Right?
want to come
So
back
this is
here,
the
because you
footer.
will still just take
So
the
you
G2
cannot
pawn,
properly
and then you
arrange
can
it
take
to
a
be at
skinny
the
donkey.
so
So he
positioning
figures,
is
I
where
might
the
as well go to
CSS comes
F7.
in. So
and
this
fork
already
the
creates the
rook
structure. So you
and
can
the
see the
queen
beauty of
again. Same
HTML and
thing.
how it differs from the
So he
cascading
goes to
style
F7 and he
CSS.
gets his little
You can see
fork.
originally
It's
my
okay.
I want to be
You
at
go
the
to
bottom.
G2, you are
Alright? I
threatening
want
this
to be at
little
the
rook.
bottom. So
He
that is
figures
where
he
a
can just bring his
position
rook back
matters.
here
You can
because
say,
he
oh, look
doesn't
at
see
where I
the
want you
rest
to
of the
stay.
moves
Go
you
and
have
stay here.
for him.
You can stay
When he
here.
brings his
This
rook back,
content you
guess
can
what, Girly
spread
Man?
yourself
I thought to check
and
for you,
occupy
Girly
the full
King.
width of this web
Only
page.
move Girly Man has is to
But
bring
this is
his
how we can
queen
create.
or
So you
his
can see the
bishop
three
to
lengths
block the queen.
group on the
And
nav.
what he doesn't
This is the
understand is
header.
what smother make this.
This
When he
is
brings his
the
bishop
first,
back,
the
you
main and the
checkmate the
section.
Girly King with a
Alright,
smother,
and this is
man.
the
Oh, Girly
footer.
Man, you need to learn how to pump up your game
Alright,
because your game
so
is
that
weak
is
and you are a
task 4.
baby.
Let's go back to
If
what
you're
we
under
have.
1,000
So I
elo,
think I have the solution also. So you can go through the solution and do yours. So task 5 becomes more interesting on forms. So this is very vital, very, very important. The forms. You can't do away with forms. Anything you do, the forms must be needed. All right. So this says create a registration form with full name, input. Right. So they gave us the input type. I've done the type, which I said we have the number, the text, the checkbox, the radio,
you
the
have to know
password,
the
the
black.
email, and so on and so forth. Even the date, the local date, and so on. There are so many types. I think there are about 20 types of text we have.
So the meme
20.
came out in
Alright,
2016.
so
but the
sales you
video
use the
was
full
shot
name, and
in
it's the same. Use the
1989.
text input on the email. Use the email input on the password. You know there should be a password input. The gender should be radio. That means it's either male or female, optional, right? And I did explain what this radio difference between the radio and the checkbox in our previous workshop. At the radio, you must choose an option. Then say hobbies checkbox. That means you can have multiple hobbies and you can check right as much as possible, and we have submit. So we'll quickly create this. We'll quickly create this. So let me quickly open up my VS Code, and I will have task 5.
When I played in the video?
Task 5.html.
What's your name?
I will use my
Do we
same
also know your face, or would you-
short abbreviation.
So the meme came
Copy
out
again.
in
So this is
2016,
font. Check
but the
the
video was
fonts.
shot in 1989.
Oh,
Alright.
Crazy.
So for us to start a form,
trying to figure
first
out
you
who
must
you are.
include it with a form element. Right, so this tells the browser that we are creating a form. Right? The next thing, another thing I'll be introducing for you is an element called label. Right? We all know what the word label means. Just to label something, right? To write a name, to define what that thing is doing. So this work of label is almost doing the same work of a placeholder attribute. So we see what this is doing. So give it a name. So we say we should create full name. All right. So we can give it a label. For the first input is full name. Then we can now add the input type, which is a self-closing. So by default is text. So we can leave this, add the name and say name, full name. Right. So this name is actually very, very important when you are sourcing with a server. Right. So this is what we use to recognize the input. Right. So this, whatever name you give will become the name of the input. So this is how we call it if you have a controller. Well, we're not doing backend for now. As we proceed, we see the beauty of it. Right. So we can give an ID, identity. Right. And let's proceed. So I can just remove this ID for now. Remove this ID for now. Right. So this is how I create a test. Let's run this guy and see what we have so far. All right. So you can see work of 11. We have seen a site that looks like this. Full name. So you can look at this. They can see that by default there's nothing here. So if this label is not here, you cannot know. You can't even detect or to say, oh, what should I write here? You don't know what to write. But with this label, you know that they are asking for your full name. Right? So this is the same work of the placeholder, which I introduced in our previous workshop. So I can add the placeholder and say enter your full name. Right? So if I refresh, it's using a like automatically refresh. You can see enter your full. So if you use this placeholder, there may not be need for label, right? But using the tool looks top instruction. So this, if by using our modern designs, they don't use label anymore. You might not see label unless there is a very vital need for it, right? So you can mostly use it. So once I click and start writing, the placeholder leaves is the temporary stuff. So next one we are creating is the email. So I use the label also, and I can say email. So I'll introduce what this for is doing, right? This for is very important. I will introduce it, what it's doing. So I can say email, for instance, and I'll have my input. So this is email. So I have my email. I can give this guy ID of email, right? So if I give this guy ID of email and I say for email, so if you're looking for any place we have the ID of email, right? So that is what this for is. So I'll show you the practical example for it. So I can refresh this and see email. So let's break this line. So I introduce you a self-closing element called BR for break. So I can break this and we have a double break. BR, double break, the break and give us. So if I click on this main, this text, which is 11, automatically it will focus on my input. But if I click here, you see that there's no focus because there's no for. That's the work of that for. If I click on for, it looks at that email or the ID we have given and focus the text. Believe that is well understood for what the for is doing. All right, and the ID goes together with the ID, right? So it's very bad that if I have this ID here, so make sure that you are placing it on the right input. If I have the ID here, practically it means if I click here, my full name will be focusing. It will focus on my email, on my full name, which is wrong, which is what I don't want. All right, so make sure you put it according to where you need it. So let's leave it this way. All right, so I can copy this BR break, put it here, click work. Now our next one says password, right? Password. Password. I can have the letter and I'll say password. All right. So I can have the input and say password. Right. So if I refresh, you see that it's let me add columns to this.
So, yeah, there might be a little bit of a lag with
all right.
YouTube.
So if I refresh on tab, the once I type, it after that I kind of patch for security reason. You cannot see what I'm typing.
Okay, ladies and
The what the
gentlemen,
password
I wanted to start
you
with
type is doing. Password
Okay,
input type
everybody.
indicate that is the password. All right.
Thank you
Good.
so much for joining another Miva
The next
podcast. My name is Anyeka
is
Belmo. I'm the Chief
gender.
Operating
Gender
Officer
will
at
be
Miva Open
in a radio
University,
format.
Nigeria's first private online
Right, so I can have a label also,
university with 25,000
and I'll have
students enrolled
gender.
in under 3 years. So hello to all of our students
So let me paste in this
all
break.
36 states of Nigeria and
All right,
over
so break to
70
next line,
countries around the world.
and I'll have
So everyone knows the topic that we're
input.
here to discuss. Before we get into it, just in the
Input.
chat, if you
So
won't
the best
mind
another way
letting
to
us
add
know
in
how
a
many
short
people
form, you can write input
student level
column, and I can say
and I have with
radio.
me
Automatically, this will add to type for me, right? So if I remove this radio and say Control Shift, you can see all the type we have. We have the type of button, checkbox, color, date, file, hidden, image, more,
so you and I
so
actually
much.
met last year
A password, radio, range, reset, search,
Columbia
submit,
Business
heavy,
Schools Africa conference. That was great.
text,
So
time, URL,
good to see you again.
week. All right. So you can just test
Virtually
all these guys at your own convenience. Each of them,
So for the
just
people who
select
are
and see what they are doing.
first time,
Select them and see what they
allow
are
me
doing.
to
So we
honor
focus on the radio.
introducing
So I'm picking
Emmanuel.
those vital
Emmanuel is
ones.
the African
All are
lead of
vital, but some
WEI,
are more used.
where he
All
leads
right,
strategic
they are more used.
engagement
So I
across
can
the
say
continent
radio,
in the intersection
and I will
of
say
policy, partnerships, and
the
ecosystem
value.
development. Prior to
So I can
joining
give it a name,
OpenAI,
call
Emmanuel
it
built a
gender,
global career spanning Africa, Europe, and the United States.
and I will give it
Working at the
value.
nexus of technology, public policy, and
I
government
will say
relations, his experience includes senior leadership and advisory roles such as the head of
male.
government affairs for Africa at
So I can
Twitter,
choose another input
policy advisor to UNICEF E2
with
Giga
the
Initiative,
I
and
have
consultant
radio,
to Block. These are the Square, Cash App, Tidal, and
right?
Afterpay.
And I have a name of
We're talking to
gender.
a tech everywhere.
and a value
Fresenius Group
of
and the
female.
Center for International Private Enterprise, as well as the U.S. Congress.
Female.
Fluent in English, French,
All
German,
right.
and
Value of female.
Emmanuel has been recognized as an Atlantic Dialogues
Value.
International Strategy Forum Fellow.
Like yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, so drawing on your experience across the global technology ecosystem, we know that you're committed to empowering people and
Value of
institutions
female
to
of male. So this is telling the app, so can add
inclusive growth
the actual
and
text outside
societal
there.
transformation.
Yeah,
So we're
just check.
so honored to have you here today. Thank you
Female.
so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Right. Good.
Okay,
So I can choose.
let's go back to
You can see the function of the radio,
you're in
right? So you are meant to choose one. This is the work of the radio. You are not you can't choose both of them. All right. Why? Because they are having the same name,
For me, and it came
different values. So this is how we organize our radio.
Curiosity.
Next one,
in the US during a critical
let's
time,
check what we
2007,
have
2008,
again.
Obama was just running
Okay.
for president.
So we have
first black president. He was super charismatic.
we've done the genders, right? Hope that is well understood. Radio. And the next one is hobbies.
And again,
In
I
the
was a college
checkbox,
student at the time, and
then
all of us on
submit
campus were just new to
content.
Facebook.
I can come down here again and have break. I will have a label, and this label I can name it hobbies, and I can have my input for checkbox. The checkbox, let's give it the same name for hobby.
I think Twitter wasn't even out there, was
Hobby.
quite recent. A few
WBY.
years later, when I worked in US
I
Congress,
can give
after I
a value of
graduated,
this one
but my
to
interest
be
actually just started
reading.
seeing Obama run, being super
This is the actual
charismatic, getting his
value
message
of it.
across, and kind of
I can say
bypassing traditional media,
reading here.
and even reaching young people by utilizing social media. You know, I
Reading.
think that kind of sparked the interest in general, and as I was studying politics,
say-
international relations,
so that may be-
it kind of stuck with me as well. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
And
You know, you're
that's
talking about
three.
Obama using the
So maybe
rising
reading,
technology of the time, right?
same name hobby. I can change here
About the way that you've worked to get
to dancing.
AI be more accessible to some of the countries on the continent.
Dancing.
I know that OpenAI
I'm
recently
not to
launched
dance though.
ChatGPT
Dance is not my
Go.
hobby. But I
That's
just
quite
add that.
super
So I can
accessible
say
in
maybe
Nigeria. It's about 7,000
traveling.
naira a month for that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk us through how that cost reduction
Traveling.
conversation came about and how
Right.
easy it was
Let's see what we have here.
for the OpenAI leadership to be kind of convinced
So,
about the need
okay.
for different pricing.
Now our phone.
for
You can see I have
platforms.
option of
Yeah.
choosing
I would say when you
as
came in on
many
very
as possible, right?
OpenAI's mission is that AI
I have option of
benefits all
choosing
humanity,
as
right?
small
I think
as
in
possible.
order
So
to
this is
be
checkbox,
humanity, you need to be
and this is
not only
radio.
accessible,
Radio
but also
says
to be
just
affordable.
one. You can't choose more than one. So that is why they normally use it for your objective questions, A or B. You must choose one. Alright. So and lastly, we should have a button. A button.
So I
But
think the conversation on Church
register.
it was a global conversation, and then it kind of.
I want to teach you something about this button element. Right? There's something about this button element. You know what button is? A clickable. Let me have the break. Hold on. I can bring it down so we can see something. Alright, good. So something about this button. If I click this button, right, you notice something that is trying to submit my file. It's trying to submit it. Let me refresh it again, and I will wipe. Or let me wipe this. All of this. Fresh. I try to click on submit, on register. It's trying to submit this. It will refresh. Why is it doing so? Because it's enclosed in this form. And it's saying, form, definitely there should be an action trying to submit a form. And this button, if I remove this button inside this form, I want to show you something, and I will inside the form, and I place it outside. Let's refresh again. You will see that this button will not do anything. It doesn't try to submit. It behaves like normal submit. Why is it doing so? This is because when you place a button inside a form, it behaves like a submit button, no longer a normal button. It behaves like a submit button. But if you want this to be a pure button, all you have to do, come here and set the type of the button to be button. It will no longer be a submit button. If I click here, nothing also happens. So I have option of setting it back to submit, which is the default if you didn't have any type. And if I click on this, it tries to submit. That's that for form. I believe we are progressing and it's making sense. All right, that is cool. So we have the solution also. Whatever I've done here, basically I have the solution here, so you can go through it and code it on your system. All right, so task 6, which will be, I think that will be the last task for today, and we have an assignment. All right, so this we are creating a table which we'll discuss. So we'll create a table with the T head and the T body. So what this T head is actually doing, it will group all the heads, right? And this body will group all the body. The table showing the name, course, and score. Name, course, and score. So we have to add at least 3 students record, right? This one means row, at least 3 rows. That's what we are trying to do. So let's go back and have axis. Axis.html. So I will have my this also, and I will call this table. Table.
Because there's no information, then I will confirm.
Right.
Because there's no information.
45%. Okay. So I said to create a table, first thing you must do, you must indicate to tell the browser, yes, I am creating a table. So you use the table element, just the same way we use the form. Same thing for the table. You say table. Alright. So inside this table is where we now have the grouping. So you want to have the head, you want to have the body. So let's use the T head, which is the table head and the table body. So this first T head help us to group everything about the head. Right, so inside this we can now create a row. Alright, so after a row, we can start adding the T head. So we have the T head, so we can say name. Right, we can have the name. We can have the course. Then let's have this, and we can have the score. The score. Alright, so these have created the head. If I have another head, I can still put it, maybe I can still duplicate this another head. So we have double head, maybe a subhead. But for this, we just give only one. Right? So every head, everything on the head can be grouped under this T head, just to organize our code. Then after that, I want to have the content of the table, which is the results, maybe to fill the name, the student, they ask us to put at least 3 students. All right, so I can have the T body, and then I can create a row, T row. Then I can have my T data. So T data, so I can just say maybe go doctor, S data. So I can have the next one is store.
So
Sorry. I can have next one store. And I can, or the course, I can have course. I can have course, and I have let's say HTML. I can have HTML, then I can have next one uh,
Email unscripted
score.
419
Let's say maybe 80.
It's
Let's say 80.
I see
So
what
let's
you
run
say.
this code and see what we have. So you can see, for these guys are not in a tabular form, so they are just showing. So you can see the name, course, and their name comes under HTML form. So we have an attribute to add those table. By default, doesn't come with that, so you manually put it either with the CSS or the attribute. But this attribute is depreciated using the border, right? So you can see it's showing red, showing that this is depreciated, no longer in use, or can still use it for practice. So the best way to add this is maybe using CSS. Add it. So I can just say a border 1, right? Automatically it will create the border for me. You can see the border line, tabular form. All right. You can still put S. Let's ignore that for now. So let's say let's have at least 3 students. 3 students. I will duplicate this into 3 rows. Let me do it manually. So don't jump. So that means I'll leave this last row to create another row. That means after this guy, to create another row, I will just come down after the end of this code, this man, and create another row. That's what I'm doing. I'll come down here outside the row, all grouped inside the T body. Inside the T body, I will have another T row. Then maybe this one I can have Mike. So Mike is doing, let's say TD. He's doing CSS, and the score for Mike it may be 77. And we can add another one. So I think I've used a name. Let's add a female. All right. So I have D, and we can have maybe I think we have Faith here. Faith, and maybe Faith is studying JavaScript, or the course is JavaScript.
Discord.
And let's give him a score. Let him score higher. Then ladies first, right? So let's just give him maybe 87. All right. So this is how we have each rows. You can see. So as much table as you have, adding those rows, adding their records. So that's how we get its rows. I believe that's well understood. So that's kind of it. Okay, so this is the last project or the last task for today. All right, so we have the solution. Yeah, so you can run it also and try to get. All right, thank you very much. So let me see how many persons are still here. Oh, still have just 2 persons. Where are the rest?
Okay.
So please, is there any question?